And at one point they asked me what I do for a living. I say I'm actually a lawyer. One girl says, "Oh, I'm also a lawyer, pretty cool." And then there's one girl who actually liked the most, and I was like, "So what do you do?" And she's like, "I'm a border guard."
SAR Experience.
Всем привет and welcome back to another episode of the Vodka Vodcast with me, Connor Klein. This is the SAR Experience, and in today's episode I'm really excited to share a story with you that is intriguing. I'm guessing since you're here watching the video. And I'm speaking to you today from Odessa in Ukraine. It's the end of this Indian summer. It's been amazing weather over the last 6 weeks. We're like basically at the end of October and it looks like this. It's really phenomenal. I can't promise it's always going to be like this in Odessa, but today's video is about another city in the region, Minsk, and the country Belarus, because I've been there earlier in the summer and I'm about to go back. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm actually going to be there next week. Now when you see this, it'll probably already have happened. You'll probably be able to check out actually my videos and vlogs from Minsk in Belarus. I will link them up here on some cards and also down in the description to the video. If you're watching it on YouTube, if you're listening to it on the podcast, then I will put those in the show notes for you to go and check out. So I'm really excited to be going back to Belarus, but wasn't always so obvious that I would ever get to go back to Belarus ever again, to be honest. And that's the story I want to share with you guys today in this episode of the Vodcast. It's the time that I actually got banned from Belarus. Now, it wasn't, well, should I spoil it already by telling you how I got banned? No, I'll keep a little bit of suspense in the video. So it was 2 years ago. Just a little bit under 2 years ago. Probably when I was planning the trip, it was about 2 years ago. And I was considering going to Minsk for New Year's Eve. I know it's not the most popular destination for New Year's Eve, but my French friend Remy, who's actually been in many of my videos from here in Odessa or other parts of Ukraine, he was kind of obsessed with the idea that we would go to Minsk. It's known as the last dictatorship in Europe. He's like, yeah, let's go, let's celebrate New Year's Eve there. He was really excited about it. And at the time, you needed a visa to visit Minsk if you were Western European or North American. So I was against the idea. I was like, this is a lot of hassle to go to Minsk. We could just fly to Kiev or somewhere else that doesn't require a visa, and it'd just be a lot simpler, and we'll probably have more fun, and it'll probably be even cheaper than going to Minsk. But he was adamant, no, we must go. We have to go to Minsk. And I was like, okay, you're usually disorganized, Remy, so once you have your visa and all of your stuff together, like your flights, then I'll believe that we're gonna go to Minsk. Otherwise, I'll just assume we're gonna end up going to somewhere more reasonable, like Kiev, for example. So Remy starts the process of applying for his Belarusian visa. Now, the rules on visa-free have changed. They've actually become a lot easier in the last 2 years. I'm going to also link up in the cards and down below in the description some videos about that. So if you're planning on going now, it's going to be a lot easier for you if you have a North American or a European passport to actually go to Minsk, and they do have a 30-day visa-free period if you fly into Minsk airport and out. But at the time that wasn't possible 2 years ago. So Remy starts organizing his visa because he's going to fly from Switzerland to Minsk directly. I, on the other hand, start to look at alternatives just in case at the very last minute I need to go to Belarus. Now, they had just started exactly at that time a new pilot program where you could go to a border town called Grodno or Grodna in Russian, and there you just had to organize some documents beforehand and basically pay about 20 euros, and you could cross the land border and actually go to Grodno in Belarus. Now, what is very strange about the system is that officially you're not allowed to leave the area around Grodno that's actually identified by some sort of border on the road or some signs, even though you've actually entered Belarus legally. And of course they have this common travel area with Russia. So, and at the time I think there was no border guards between Russia and Belarus. They've changed that to Russia since then, since Belarus has started to liberalize its visa-free policy with countries that Russia requires a visa from. But basically, you would, I guess, to placate that, you were not allowed at the time leave Grodno. But it's an odd situation. It's a bit like you're allowed to fly to New York, but then you can't go to San Francisco. It doesn't really make that much sense that you would spend your money in San Francisco versus New York. I mean, who cares? From the country's point of view, and same from Grodno to Minsk. So I knew I could get to Belarus, then the issue would be getting to Minsk and how easy or difficult that would be to manage. So Remy has a complete nightmare trying to organize his visa. Basically, he first sends his application, then they say you still need the insurance. We don't like the letter you sent from your insurance company, even though he technically had insurance. So in the end, he has to, I think, buy the insurance from another company, or he has to send another letter that holds it up for a while. Then they tell him that actually the exchange rate on the visa fees has changed in Swiss francs. So what he sent was, we'll say it was, I don't know how many it actually was in Swiss francs, but it's probably something like 50 or 60 Swiss francs. And they said, yeah, you paid 59 point whatever number of cents it was. So you still owes like less than $1. But we want that, otherwise we're going to process your visa. And this is all like taking a huge amount of time, right? So basically has to then send this money, the second payment for a few cents, just to have it processed, at which point he had written the address. It was almost Christmas, so we're going for New Year's, and obviously things are going to be closed, like the embassy is going to be closed, and obviously, you know, his own work in his office is going to be closed, and he'd actually written for the delivery to be with his passport, obviously, because he knows the visa on his passport, to be at his workplace, and they were going to be closed. So he then asked him, can I change the address? And they were like, no. You cannot change the address on delivery. He's like, well, no one's going to be there to pick it up. I can't actually have it delivered to the building. And they're like, not our problem. You'll get it in when it reopens, which of course is too late for New Year's, and he's already bought his flights and everything. So at this stage, I'm like, well, sucks, but I'm not going to go into the hassle of getting the visa because it doesn't look like we're actually going to go to Minsk at the end of the day. So I was like, and anyways, if it does, I have this other option of going to Grodno, and then we can work something out. So in the end, it's like maybe the day before Christmas, maybe 2 days before Christmas, I get a photo on my phone of a Belarusian visa in Remy's name, and I was like, oh, he managed to get it. In fact, he had gone to the depot where the courier service had, or the postal service, whichever it was, had his passport in an envelope, and basically he got them to open up and give it to him because he said it, the passport was for going home for Christmas to see his family. Well, maybe he has family in Minsk, not sure about that. So anyways, he has his passport. I'm like, oh, we really are going to Minsk, so I need to book flights, and I need to get to Grodno, because obviously I can't get a visa at this stage because it's too late, that the embassy is closed anyways, right? So I then go to online, book a flight to Eastern Poland. Actually, I booked a flight to Warsaw, and then I took a train from Warsaw to Białystok, which is on the border. I've actually since made a video from Białystok. If you want to watch it, I'll also link that up in a card. And then I would take the bus across the border to Grodno. Now, I have been to Belarus once before. It was actually in Minsk. It was 2010, so it's quite a long time ago. So I was excited to go back to Belarus. The reason why I hadn't been back is basically because I had to get a visa, and it's hassle, So that's why I was spending so much time in Ukraine as opposed to Belarus and Russia, which also requires a visa. So I cross the border the next day. Basically, I fly to Warsaw, take the train to Białystok, stay overnight, get up, have a walk around the center of Białystok, then take a bus to Grodno. So this is, I get to the border. I was one of the first people to take advantage of this visa-free regime, 5 days to go to Grodno, cross the border. Border guards are friendly to me. I have the insurance, everything. Get to Grodno, go out, and I actually partied pretty hard. Actually, I had a really, really late night. I think I went to bed around 8 a.m. It was quite crazy. Met some local girls there and had a very, very good night. Wake up pretty hungover, and actually I have a travel vlog of this whole trip, and you can watch that also linked up in the card. You're gonna have a lot of viewing to do if you haven't seen these videos, and there you can see I'm actually a little bit messed up in the video at the opening scene because I hadn't slept very much. And I'm actually at the bus station, so I decide I'm gonna go to Minsk. Remy has arrived. He's booked an apartment for me there, and I'm going to take some mode of transport to get there. Now, BlaBlaCar wasn't working, or any sort of carpooling or car sharing service, so I decided I'm going to take the bus, not the train, because the train asks for your passport. So I was thinking, well, maybe they would see that I'm only supposed to be in Grodno, not in Minsk, and on the bus they didn't ask me any questions, so I decided to go to the bus station, got a bus ticket, basically sat at the back of the bus, closed the curtains, got some sleep, woke up in Minsk. Now, of course, I'm not planning to do anything to get myself in trouble or something like that. So I basically, we enjoy New Year's Eve. Unfortunately, he picked a place that really was kind of like just, it's actually kind of almost like a gay club. There were so many gay guys there, but it wasn't so crazy in terms of the party. He loves this electronic music and this kind of like hipster scene. And the music was good, so we did enjoy the music. For me, a New Year's party wasn't really what I had expected, but yeah, I always give him once a year where he can take me to these kind of parties where we'll just like party, just dance until 8 a.m. He also didn't know that it wasn't actually a gay club. I mean, this is also what's interesting about Belarus, because it's actually quite draconian and not very big on gay rights, or whatever the long acronym has turned into today. For that, it was just very gay friendly. There were actually just a lot of gay people at the party, and it wasn't a place where there were a lot of single straight people, which was an unusual experience for me on New Year's Eve. But hey, we did dance, we did have good fun, and we didn't then go out the next evening as well. And the next evening, I'm still in Minsk, of course. Remy keeps jaywalking, which is a big problem. I mean, the reason I make these videos is that you can also learn from them. Not just that you listen to me and are entertained purely maybe by my stories. It's actually because jaywalking is like, Belarus is really strict as a country. It's of course a dictatorship. It's basically a police state, and there are police everywhere, and if you break the rules in Belarus, then you do get in trouble. You do get fined, right? It's not North Korea. I don't want to exaggerate. It's completely fine to go there, but even stuff like jaywalking can get you in trouble. So Remy keeps bloody jaywalking, and of course police even shouted at him once, and I'm like, dude, I'm not actually supposed to be in Minsk. I have no idea what they will do. Maybe they would deport me, maybe they would fine me. Of course it's not a big deal. I'm not doing something. I'm just gonna go back to Grodno and leave right after the parties in Minsk. So that's something to be careful if you do go to Belarus. Just remember that even jaywalking is strictly enforced, it seems. There definitely people stop at every red light if they're walking. So that evening we go to a cafe bar in the kind of historic part of Minsk. And it was kind of a funny occurrence. My friend Rami has a flight early in the morning to go back to Switzerland, and I am of course going to go back to Grodno. And we're at the bar. I think it was ordering some coffee. I don't even think it was drinking alcohol. And some girls stand beside us. We start talking. They're pretty friendly, seem pretty cool. So I say, hey girls, sit down at our table. Let's just chat for a little while. My friend has to leave and go to the airport pretty soon, but we can just chat. So we start talking. The girls are pretty open to conversation. And they spoke a little bit of English. I think one of them mostly in Russian. So I had to interpret for Remy, because he hasn't learned Russian yet. And at one point they asked me what I do for a living. I say I'm actually a lawyer. When the girl says, oh, I'm also a lawyer, pretty cool. And then there's one girl who actually liked the most, and I was like, so what do you do? And she's like, I'm a border guard. I was like, interesting. I think I might need your phone number in case I ever have a problem. And she'd already asked me, like, where to come from, where was I going? And I said, yeah, I came from Grodno and I'm going back there tomorrow to Grodno. So it should have been pretty obvious. The reason for that was because I wasn't supposed to be in Minsk, technically. So the next day I go to Grodno. Also have a travel vlog from Grodno that I've shot since then, that I'll also link, of course, by card and below in the description, so you should go and watch that. It's probably going to give you a better sense of the town. Actually went to a bar to pick up the keys for my apartment because they were left there for me, and actually people even recognized me from the first night of the trip because I was only a 5-day visa free. And the bars, actually I had even friends in Grodno after just one night out there. It was just really cool. And I had another good very late night in Grodno. Next day wake up, I'm actually not feeling the best. I go across the border, hand on my passport, leave Belarus, go to Vilnius, which is the capital of Lithuania. I always like going there. Met an old friend who'd been my intern actually as a lawyer a few years previously in Vilnius, and went out there partying with a local girl. Even on that night, I was pretty ill, but that's probably another story for another episode. So that would seem to be the end of it, right? So you're probably wondering, so where's the point where you get banned, Connor? Yeah, that's coming up after I leave Belarus. I flew to Brazil for Carnival. If I know I make this channel about Eastern Europe, but actually Brazil is my favorite country in the world, and I try to go once a year for at least a month, and particularly around Carnival because it's summertime in Brazil in January, February, March. And there I really just love it. I love the whole country, the food, the people, the nature, the parties, the girls as well, of course. And Carnival is the biggest party on the planet, basically, so I really love going there. So I fly to see my friend Lucas because I'm going to crash in his place in Sao Paulo for the first night or two, and I fly to Brazil. And I land in Sao Paulo, and I see an email, on my phone. It's from a weird address. It's actually about to delete it, and then I see it has a suffix from Belarus, BY. It's like, oh, it's from Belarus. Interesting. Maybe I shouldn't just open up. It's probably spam. And it's actually a letter from. It's not. Maybe not quite a full court, but it's like a tribunal of some sort. And basically it's informing me that the charges against me for violation of Belarusian immigration law have been dropped. So I was like, that's nice in terms of due process, being a lawyer, that, they only tell me after the fact that I'm not been charged anymore with anything. Like normally I would expect to have been informed when the process or whatever procedure was ongoing, obviously to tell me so I can defend myself or whatever, at least be part of the process. So it's all written in Russian, and I do speak Russian, but I want to make double sure. I send it to a Russian friend who's a lawyer, and he confirms, yeah, it's all fine. It just says that the charges against you were dropped, the whole procedure, so yeah, there's no consequence, except for lack of evidence. And I'm like, yeah, that seems all good. And I have been thinking about learning some Russian or Belarusian in Belarus. And I have been talking to some language schools. Now I've done something similar in Lviv in Ukraine for learning Ukrainian. Also have videos about that. I'll also link that about beautiful Lviv. So I negotiate with a school. They say, yeah, we will invite you to learn Belarusian free of charge. They offer me some other incentives to come. I'm like, cool. I guess I'm going back to Minsk sooner than I thought. But this time I need a visa because obviously at the time there wasn't this 30-day visa-free rule to go to Minsk. They had not changed it actually since, I should tell you, I actually published this video, the vlog from Minsk going there. At the time I published that on my channel, and they'd actually changed the rules to make it 5 days visa-free to go to Minsk. So actually, if that had been available just 2 months later, I think it was even less than 2 months, I think it was like 6 weeks earlier, I never would have had to have gone to Grodno at all. I could have just flown to Minsk. So in the interim period, they've changed it. I published the video, but now for the classes, I want to stay for 30 days. Basically, I wanted to stay for a few weeks, so I need to get a visa still. And I go to the Belarusian embassy in Kiev eventually. I had wanted to do in Bucharest, but I needed a letter, and it took a while. So I go there, and I have my money, I buy the insurance that I need, because you always need insurance when you go to Belarus. And I go into the embassy, I have all my documents, I hand it over. They ask me for the original document of the original copy of the invitation letter. I'm like, I'm traveling, I can't have that mailed to me. They're like, okay, fine. They go back, I'm thinking, okay, this is, normally you have to wait a week to get your passport back. I'm just going to wait till it's confirmed, then go have lunch. And the woman comes back to me and she's like, Mr. Klein, why, and this is all in Russian, by the way, but for safe for everybody who's watching it, I'll say it in English. Mr. Klein, why have you come to get a visa with us? You're on a list of banned people from the country. You can't get a visa. Like, basically saying, why are you wasting all our time? You can't come to Belarus. And I was like, that's a shock to me. What do you mean banned from Belarus? That's crazy. And then I thought, okay, I had this letter, so I tried to find it on my phone, like frantically trying to get it. I couldn't get the letter to load up on my phone. Of course, like when you really need it, technology starts to let you down. And I said, hey, the charges were dropped against me. There's no legal decision saying that I'm banned from the country. So I'm completely unaware of this. And she's like, well, I can't give you the visa if you're in the system as being banned, right? And I said, well, okay, what do I need to do to have the situation rectified? Because it's a mistake. Who do I need to speak to? She said, you need to call the Ministry of Internal Affairs in Minsk. Here's the phone number, and you can do that in the morning. So next morning, I call the Ministry of Internal Affairs in Minsk, and the woman is very polite. She goes through my file, and she's like, okay, you enter the country. They have very long names in Russian, by the way, for each of the different areas. Like you enter the country, then you enter the Grodno zone, then you leave the Grodno zone. So basically, she was able to tell me exactly when I left Grodno, went to Minsk, came back, then left the country. Then apparently an investigation was opened on a certain date as to, for violation of Belarusian immigration law. Then there was decision taken to drop the charges. I was like, okay. And then decision was made to ban me from the country by the security services. So I was like, okay, so I'm banned by arbitrarily, basically. It was an arbitrary decision, executive order by the security services. Like, can I appeal that? They're like, and the woman was like, no, you cannot appeal a decision by the security services. We're actually known as the KGB still. They didn't change the name in Belarus. So there you go. KGB banned me. And my head was like, well, yeah, okay. Well, how long is the ban? And she was like, it's for 1 year. I was like, okay, 1 year. Actually sounds kind of reasonable. And is there a fine? Can I come back after 1 year? She's like, yeah, you can come back after 1 year, just not allowed back into Belarus for 1 year. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks for Belarus more than anything else, because obviously I will come, spend money in the country, and actually make videos and promote it. But if they don't want me in their country for 1 year and I can come back, then that's the way it's going to be. So I was pretty disappointed. I had to tell the schools, sorry, I can't come after all this hassle. And fast forward a year, I did cross the border. I actually went to Brest on another 5-day visa-free possibility, or I'm going to say deal, but just basically process. So they've now expanded that, so you can go 5 days visa-free crossing the land border to Brest, which is also borders Poland. And I did that, but it was pretty tense because I wasn't 100% sure, like, am I actually allowed back into the country or not? I get there was actually a Belarusian girl on the bus who befriended me while I was waiting in the queue, because when you go through immigration, they make you take all your bags off the bus and they kind of go through everything. And she wanted to help me in case I had a problem with maybe communication. So I don't have my passport. I'm actually pretty tense because I'm like, God, it's going to be rough hanging out in this remote border post if it turns out that I can't come into Belarus for some reason. And the immigration officer who had my passport was like, it was the first time she'd seen this visa-free thing, so she had to make phone calls, taking forever. But then she was like, okay, welcome to Belarus. And I was like, great. And this girl on the bus then helped me with going through customs. So they actually in the end didn't even look at my suitcase. Straight through on the bus. I'm back in Belarus. All good again. So after 1 year of not being allowed in, I was able to then go and take the classes at the school. I actually went to learn Belarusian, which is the second official language of the country. Most people speak Russian. Everybody speaks Russian, but some people also can speak Belarusian, which is the national language. Did do that. There's going to be videos about that. My time in Minsk, also learning Belarusian, going to be up on the channel. If they're already up, I'll put, of course, a card like all the other videos. And it unfortunately rained the entire 10 days that I was in Minsk, so that's actually why I'm going to go back again and film the city, because I couldn't really film anything outside. It was pretty awful the whole time, so I thought it's not going to be very interesting for you guys to watch if it's just like clouds. And yeah, you should see the drone footage of it over once. Awful footage. So that's the story about the time that I was banned from Belarus. So what can you learn from this? First of all, there are ways around, obviously, technicalities in the law. Of course, I enter the country illegally. I don't encourage that you break the law by, entering somewhere illegally. I think that's pretty extreme. But of course, at times people overstay visas. There are, of course, consequences for that. Like normally you have to pay a fine. Maybe they say you can't come back to the country for a certain amount of time, like what happened to me when I went from Grodno to Minsk. Now, it's also true that I have a YouTube channel and I did have a video doing it, so there were comments under the video saying that did I realize I had violated Belarusian immigration law. I was not convicted of that. I was just an arbitrary decision by the KGB. So that's also informative for you that it's not a country with strict due process. I was not convicted of anything, so I shouldn't have actually been banned at all if you were to use that standard that we would apply in other countries to the legal process. But this is not the case in Belarus. They also appear to have tracked my phone. Probably I did have a local SIM card because they knew when I had crossed from place to place. So the easiest way to do that would have been by my phone and my SIM card, because obviously I had to buy that in Belarus. I had to show my passport. So just be aware of those things, that it's a country where maybe civil liberties and certain freedoms that are protected in other countries like in Western Europe and maybe North America, although those are also violated by the governments like pretty regularly. It looks like if you look at certain scandals like with NSA and what's been exposed in the media. But just remember that they can see all those things if you're traveling, and normally for most people that's never going to be an issue. And even for me, okay, they said I couldn't come back for a year, but at the end of the day, I can go back to Belarus and I can show you what's really great in the country. And they did change the rules after the first time I was there, and actually they changed it to 30 days visa free after the second time I made a video complaining about it. I actually have a video about being allowed back into Belarus, a short video, Tip Thursday there. So that's something that you can learn from. In my experience dealing with Belarus, that due process is not really something that is protected in other places. And be prepared if you have a technical violation of some rule to deal with the consequences of that. I was fine with that. I mean, basically I went from Grodno to Minsk. You're not technically supposed to do that, but at the end of the day, obviously it's a very small infraction of a rule about what you're supposed to do and what you can't do, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to let someone into the country and then say, hey, you can only stay in one city and not another city. So just be aware of all those things. If you have your own stories about Belarus and dealing with maybe their immigration, maybe with traveling visa free, then let everybody know down in the comment section to this video. It's always great to get your comments, because you don't help not just me, but also all the other people in this great community that we've been building over the last few months, who are really enthusiastic about traveling in the real raw east of Europe. And maybe you've had similar issues in other countries, then please let us know as well in the comment section. If you've enjoyed this video, of course, strike the like button, give it a big thumbs up, helps the channel out. If you're not a subscriber and you've gone all the way to the end of this video, then you might as well go ahead and squeeze that red subscribe button, become a subscriber. Also helps with the algorithm and everything in YouTube. And if you're really interested in going deeper in with these topics, then whack the notification bell beside the subscribe button so that you're notified whenever I'm uploading new videos here on YouTube. If you're planning a trip to the region, maybe it's Ukraine, maybe it's Russia, maybe it's somewhere in the Baltics, Romania, then also consider writing me a message, let me know that you're coming. I can help you out. I provide coaching packages over Skype to get you set up. Maybe you're going there for dating, and in particular you need to be careful. A lot of things that could go wrong with that in terms of scams, and I help a lot of my clients. I even read their emails that when they're corresponding with girls maybe in Russia or Ukraine, and explain to them, yeah, that's definitely a scam. That's not even a girl you're talking to. I'm just an interpreter, translator there. It's probably some dude 40 years of age. That's not, and they're asking for money. So to protect you guys, I'm here. Definitely write me a message if you're considering any of those options. You can also reach out to me on Instagram to send me a direct message. My handle is Zara Experience. My email is connorklein@zaraexperience.com. So the next Vodka Vodcast will probably be from actual Belarus itself that you're going to see, and I'm really excited to be editing up the final Odessa 2018 summer vlog. So look forward to that. And I will see all your smiling, enthusiastic faces for Eastern Europe in the next video. Do svidania, do pobачення from Odessa, Ukraine.
Zara Experience.